Welcome to Under Investigation, Stories Beyond the Badge. Join a seasoned detective as he steps away from the crime scene and into the lives of fascinating individuals. Through candid interviews and thought-provoking conversations, we explore the stories that shape us, covering personal struggles, triumphs, and the powerful intersections of faith, family, and life. Each episode brings unique perspectives and inspiring insights from people living diverse, authentic lives. Now, let's dive into today's story.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Under Investigation, Stories Beyond the Badge. I am your host, Mike, and we are up and running after about a 2-week vacation. I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed it. I didn't really want to come back, but I've got mouths to feed, so we're here. Today I've got another guest. We'll say hello to Brant. So Brant, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. You sound like a politician right there. Thank you for having me.
I could be if I tried. If I decided to do that, I wouldn't do very well, but I could try.
So Brant, you and I have known each other, I don't know, how many years? 20, 25?
Do we want to go that far?
Well, I mean, we both had hair back then.
It's gotta be. So 2000, I think 2001.
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, I think so. Our jurisdictions overlapped each other.
Yep.
So yeah. So Brant and I have known each other for a very long time, and Brant, you've had an interesting journey, professionally speaking, at least. I could talk about.
I would, yeah. Interesting to say the least. I kind of generally tell everybody I've worked just about every corner of the state except for Southeast Minnesota. So my career started out, grew up in the Forest Lake area. I actually grew up in Wyoming. When I tell everybody I grew up in Wyoming, of course, the first thing they say is the state, and I have to stop them, correct them. So, but I just tell everybody I grew up in Forest Lake. That usually works a little easier. But I grew up around there, did time there as a police explorer and things like that with Forest Lake PD, and just a bunch of ride-alongs with Forest Lake PD and Wyoming PD, and kind of get my feet wet in law enforcement. And then my first cop job was in northern Minnesota, and I went down to southwestern Minnesota and central Minnesota, and then northwestern Minnesota, and eventually ended up back in the metro. So yeah,
I've been all over the place.
I've got to work all over the place. I've got to see a lot of things, work with a lot of great people, and definitely different experiences depending upon where you work in different size agencies. And I think that's a lot of what, everybody wants to work in the metro. Everybody wants to work in the metro. But
I never did.
I think working outside the metro it's definitely a different type of cop, and it's a different type of policing.
So you were in law enforcement for how many years before you got out?
I started in 1998, and I medically retired in 2023. So just about 25 years.
All right. And you've worked bigger agencies, smaller agencies generally? What
Most of my career has been small agencies.
Okay.
My very first cop job, 1998, right out of college. I went to the Hibbing Community College and got hired with a large metropolis just south of Grand Rapids, the city of Hill City.
That was your first job?
First cop job. And I tell everybody, everybody goes, Hill City. And I go, have you ever been to Grand Rapids? And they go, yeah. And I go, do you take 169? And they go, yeah. And I said,
through it.
I said, if you blinked, you went through it.
I didn't realize that was are they who activated your license?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was my very first cop job.
Well, that's hilarious.
1998, $10 an hour. And we couldn't get overtime. This is before all the Fair Labor Standards Act stuff came in. We couldn't get overtime. The city wouldn't pay us overtime. So if you worked longer than your 8-hour shift, you took it off the next day.
Wow.
Because they were like, we're not going to pay you overtime.
Those are different days. You realize, because I was copping in 98 as well.
Yeah.
Do you realize I was 10 miles to your west?
Yeah. Well, I do now. I mean, yeah, because knowing that you worked up in Cass.
Yeah. I had no idea that, wow.
Yeah.
We could have met earlier.
Well,
instead we met down here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it was, but yeah, that was and back then, and what it was like back then. I mean, 1998, in the late 90s, early 2000s, actually 90s in general, getting cop jobs was a challenge. I mean, it was tough. I remember, I had friends that, were already cops, and I just remember this. I mean, I remember testing for Eden Prairie. I came down at the time, it must have been 98, 99. And I remember coming down and testing for Eden Prairie. And at the time, they were like the highest paid police department in the metro, or highest paid in the state, or so. Or they paid excessively well, and everybody wanted to work in Eden Prairie. And I thought, well, I'll throw an application. And I came down, and they had like 1,600 applications for like 2 jobs.
Yeah,
you know,
good luck.
Yeah, I mean, you showed up their civic center to test.
Oy, yeah.
Do you remember, Mike? Do you remember the days when you had to pay $20 to take the test?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, I do remember.
Can you imagine today trying to tell somebody, "Oh, you want to come work here? By the way, you got to pay $20 to take the test
just for the application fee."
That's just to take the test.
Yeah, there were a few. So now, like, I'm not doing the one up thing by any means, but see, I didn't want to work in the metro when I first started. So I applied for like all the sheriff's offices around the county or around the state, but never in the metro. The one metro agency I applied for was Champlain.
Oh yeah.
And they had like a physical fitness standards, like we had to run a course and all this stuff. And I think I ended up like 3rd, and they were hiring 2, and I was, crushed. Right.
Well, that's how it always goes. No, you're always like 3rd,
and they're hiring 2.
Yeah, we're hiring 2
or 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was tough. It definitely it's a lot different than it is now.
I was fortunate that I was in a good spot that at the time I didn't have anything that was tying me down anywhere. I was young enough. I was in my early 20s. I didn't really have anything that was tying me down at that particular point. So I was able to kind of go, who's ever going to give me a job, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I think, again, back then, I mean, that was good to have. And, I did, subsequently, of course, I ended up, you end up having kids and things like that. And those things kind of tie you to certain areas a little bit more. But I think at the time it was just like, who's hiring? Okay. Because I was only in Hill City for a little over a year. And then it was, it's $10 an hour. And even in 1998, $10 an hour was still not a lot of money. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I got to find something else. And so I ended up going from there to the complete opposite end of the state. I ended up going southwestern Minnesota. So I ended up going another small agency south of Marshall, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I went to work for the city of Russell.
I don't know where that is even right now.
I jokingly tell people it's not quite the end of the earth, but you can see it from there.
Oh, okay.
Right. But I went down to Marshall, or I went down to Russell, and I remember I drove down there, and it was, again, small town, bigger than where I was at, but still a small town. And I got hired, almost not on the spot, but basically the next day they called me and offered me the job, and it was a patrol officer spot. It was paying $3 or $4 an hour more than I was making. I think I went from 10 to like $13 or $14 an hour. And I said,
now I wouldn't even answer my phone for that.
I don't even, yeah. And I was like, and I go, okay. And I thought, all right. So I went down there, and the day I got down there, the guy that was there that was leaving said, just so you know, the chief's on medical leave and we don't know if he's coming back. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was the only cop.
Oh, wow. And didn't know a whole lot.
I knew nobody.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm not from there, and I got hired down there. The chief of the neighboring town, he came over and says, well, you can ride around with me and I'll give you the rundown. And I mean, I don't even know what my radio number was when I got hired there. That's how like not knowing it was. And so I was down there, and the chief of the neighboring town, who to this day is, he's still one of my close friends, but him and I became very good friends. And he's like, I'll show you where things are at, how things go and this and that. And I was there for a while, and I'm showing up at council meetings. Keep in mind, I've been a cop now for 13 months, 14 months. I mean, not very long. And I'm going to the council meetings and stuff because the chief is on medical. And finally, I'm, probably 5-6 months in, and they said, oh, I'm at a council meeting, and the city attorney stands up and says, well, we got a news. The chief's going to medical out. He's going to retire. It's, and blah, 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 blah. And, okay. So they agree that he's retired. They accept his resignation. It was a medical thing or whatever. Okay. He's gone. And so I'm sitting there, and I said, well, do you want me to put a posting together for the chief's job? And I'll never forget it. The mayor at the time, who was an old farmer, super great guy, looks over and goes, well, you're doing a pretty good job. I make a motion. We make him the chief. No. And they voted unanimously to make me the chief. And I went, hold on a second.
I didn't agree to this.
I've been a cop, like total cop. Yeah. I've been a police officer in the state of Minnesota for less than 24 months. And you're making me the chief of police. Yeah, we think you'll do great. And I was like, you're going to need to send me some training. And they said, yeah, wherever you want to go. And they did. They were very good. I got a hold of the Post Board and the Minnesota Chiefs Association. I said, here, I got kind of thrown into this. I'm going to need some help. And they did a fantastic job. And I learned a lot, but it was under fire, and it was like right now.
I was just going to say, that's a lot of trial by fire.
It's a lot. Yeah. And especially in small towns, right? So, and again,
politics,
a lot of politics. Yeah. I mean, it was a good department. I enjoyed it. And then it got to the point that was 99, 2000. And for those that are old enough to remember, the state used to have a thing called LGA, and LGA was money that the state would give to these small towns to keep them afloat.
Yeah.
Right?
Local government aid, for those who are wondering.
Yep. And so they would give LGA to all these. Well, in 2000, they cut it. In 2000, the state came out and said, we're not doing LGA anymore.
Oh,
so they cut it off. And I think they still have it, just it's a significantly less amount. And the city came in and said, we can't support half of what we have. We cannot support our police department. It was me and another full-time officer. Public Works was the public works director, and one or two employees. I think our city hall had, a clerk, and there's 2 or 3 city employees. And the city came in and said, we can't sustain this. So they disbanded the police department and went county contract. They cut the public works down to 1 guy, and they cut city hall down to 1 clerk.
Wow.
It's the only way they could survive. And so they came to me and said, nothing you're doing wrong, but
bye.
We got a contract.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that was tough. The only benefit that I got of walking away from that was, at the time, only about 6 months prior to that, they had actually gotten me a narcotics canine. And
wait a second, how did you schmooze those guys into letting you get a
school?
dog?
The school came in and said, it was the Russell Lind School. So there was a contract city we had, the city of Lind, and they came in and said, we want a dog, because there was only one other dog in the entire county, and that was Marshall PD had a dog, and their dog, and he was pretty busy. And so they said, we want to have access to our own dog. We'll pay for the dog if the city will let you have it, and they'll support it and things like that. So the initial investment of the dog was covered by the school district, and then the conversion of the squad car and the vet bills and stuff were all kind of taken care of by the city. But yeah, when they disbanded the police department, they kind of said, well, now what do we do? And so the benefit was, as they kind of figured out, they really couldn't do anything with the dog. At that time, it was a single purpose dog. So it wasn't like you could resell it to somebody else. Yeah. And so the city came in and said, yeah, we'll let you keep the dog. So that was my big takeaway, is I got to keep my first canine.
You buy it for $1?
It was. That's exactly what it was.
I know how that works.
Because they can't give it to you. Gosh, no, you can't give it to you.
Heaven forbid.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking 20 plus years ago, but if the school is willing to make that kind of investment, did they have a drug issue? At that time?
I think
that's a lot of money for a school to say, hey.
It was minimum. You got to remember, back then, single purpose, right? Not a bite dog. We're not tracking it. Yeah, it was. I think it was about $5-6 at the time. Okay. Because really, again, if they would have got into things like dual purpose, like apprehension or tracking or things like that, way more training, more in depth, the costs certainly would have gone up dramatically from there. But this was just a single purpose dog. All she did was sniff for drugs. That was it.
What kind of dog?
German Shepherd. Hannah.
Really?
Hannah was my girl.
I was going to go black lab or
Nope. Actually, she was supposed to be a drug dog for the DOC, Department of Corrections, and they got authorized 5 dogs, and then after everything got said and done, they could only afford 4, and so the guy that that trained all the dogs was also one of their COs. And had put something out with the Chiefs Association and said, hey, I got a narcotics dog that we train for the prison, fully trained, but we can't use it. Does anybody, interested in purchasing it? And I stumbled across it and was like, and so she was already fully trained. So then on top of that, instead of having to go through the long, battle of training the dog and odor on scent and things like that, the dog was already kind of preloaded, if you will. Yeah. So we were just kind of, this works.
So your dog career, and we'll get into kind of more of a crazy career that you have.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the beginning of your dog days.
Yeah, that was very much that's what
So to
kind
speak.
of drew that's what kind of drew me into the dog stuff. I'm always, I don't dislike cats, but you're either a dog person or a cat person. You
Dog.
just are. Yeah.
We're dogs in our house.
Yep.
Although my son likes cats.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I mean, I think you're one or the other. I mean, I don't dislike. We have a cat at our house. I don't dislike cats, but if I have to, if I'm either a dog person or a cat person, I'm a dog person.
Put it this way: if you can only keep one, we know which one you're
It's
keeping.
the dogs. Yeah, we're keeping the dogs. But yeah, that was the kind of the start of my dog career. And it was kind of nice because I had worked for a couple other agencies part time, following the Russell thing, and both those agencies that I worked for allowed me to bring my dog with me because she was still young, so she still had plenty of work left in her.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, when I came here,
this jurisdiction,
in my short stint at this jurisdiction, there was actually there was a proposal being put together about bringing her here.
I think I remember through conversation, office gossip.
Yeah,
that was in the works, and then
the plan was they had at the time they had a CSO pickup truck. It was a Chevy Silverado pickup truck, and the CSO that had it didn't care for it. And so they were going to get the CSO a different vehicle. And the thought process was they'd already purchased this truck. And the thought process was they were going to put just a porta kennel in it. Cause again, she's not a apprehension dog.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to put like a porta kennel in the extended cab part of the truck. And she was going to be a drug dog for the department.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's keep going here. Let's talk about some other things. So you kind of bounced around a little bit, and then you settled in kind of in the metro area for a while.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the kind of the quick version of the story is I worked down in southwestern Minnesota for a while, part time, many different ages. I jokingly tell everybody I worked for just about every agency in Renville County in a part-time status. I think there was 2 or 3 that I didn't work for. And it was all part-time. So I worked for the sheriff's office, part-time, Buffalo Lake, Hector, Olivia, Renville, Bird Island. I was part-time in all those agencies. And back then, right, that's how a lot of those small agencies survived was the part-time people.
Oh, absolutely.
And there was a bunch of us. It wasn't like it was just me. I mean, there was probably 5 or 6 of us that we were kind of the tokens that went around, and you got to work day shift over in this town, and the next day you're working night shift over in this town, and that's what we did. And
make sure you put the right shirt on.
Yeah, we jokingly said at one point I said if Olivia didn't have different colored shirts at the time, because Olivia had that the chief there liked the St. Paul colors, that it was called French blue heather. Don't call it light blue. It's not called light blue.
Really?
French blue heather. That's what it's called.
Is that what that's officially called?
Yep.
Thank goodness
the old
St. Paul got rid of theirs.
Yeah, the old St. Paul blue. Well, that's what it was. Old St. Paul blue was called French blue heather. And the chief at the time, Don Davern, was a great guy, old school. And he really, really liked the look of that color. And it was kind of like a bluish gray. And so in Olivia, we had French blue heather uniform shirts, but otherwise everybody else, we had the dark blue. And so, yeah, if it wasn't for that, I mean, there were times you literally could have Velcro on your shoulders and just swap the patches over, because you'd work day shift or half of a day shift, and then you'd switch and go over and work a couple hours over at this agency, and then you'd call it a night and get up the next morning, and we were all over.
But see, that was back in the day when we were all hustling, because you wanted you want a full-time job, but
I had to.
When there's 600 applicants for one position, you did what you did to make things work.
I mean, I remember again going back to that original job that I had in Hill City. I mean, Hill City, very small town, not a lot going on, definitely not a lot of room for advancement.
Was Murphy the chief then?
He was.
Okay, yeah.
He was.
I remember Mike.
Yep.
Not a lot of room for advancement.
I got a ton. I will tell you, I got a ton of really good one-liners that I literally carried with me my entire career from him. And I mean, like just more philosophies, he, and again, not to jump around, but he gave me maybe my second day on the job, and he sat me down because I was always nervous about working in a small town. What if I arrest the wrong person? What if I do this? And he came to me on my second day. I looked at him and I said, he's like, I thought you'd be doing more. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm kind of new in town and I don't know anybody. And it stuck with me for 25 years. He says, you treat people like people until they give you a reason not to. And those are his exact words. And he said it just like that. And he kind of nodded his head when he said it. And I literally, my entire law enforcement career, I'd always stuck with me is that I'd be really, really nice. I mean, I had people that had, rap sheets as long as your arm and criminal histories and driving records and stuff. And you treat them with respect, and they were like, hey, this guy's not being a jerk to me. And it went far. And then when it came time for that they weren't going to be nice to me, then that's what they got back. But Mike, I learned a lot from Mike when he was up there, but I don't even know where I was going with that. But yeah, so my career wise, it's just, you get done with Renville County and it's like, okay, now I got to find something else. And so at the time then, my wife had took a job working in the Metro as a nurse, and she had been trying to find a nursing job that was challenging as well. And so it was the battle was, well,
funny how things flip.
Yeah.
You can't find cops and you can't find nurses.
Nope.
It's amazing.
And they can't pay them just to get them. You can't, And so it was, do I, quit bouncing around down in Renville, down in southwestern Minnesota looking for cop jobs, or does she take this nursing job? So she took the nursing job. We moved to Champlin, and I stayed part-time just to keep my license active, just to keep doing stuff and things like that. And then I had my short stint in Buffalo, and that's when you and I met. And then after that, the whole situation with Buffalo just left a bad taste in my mouth, just how it all went down. And, but then after that, I just kind of sat back and I did I would still work part-time down south to keep my license active, but I went off in the private security sector, and I did pretty well. I worked for a company called Opus Northwest Management, and I helped them open up a lot of their outdoor lifestyle centers. So if you've ever been to the shops at Arbor Lakes and Maple Grove, mm-hmm. I was there when it's still at a dirt parking lot. I was hired by them to basically start our security staff. Woodbury Lakes, I was out there. I was all about that project. I was involved with some other projects outside the state. I really enjoyed doing that because it was still security, but it was not actual like security. I mean, we were planning things, and I enjoyed that. And then I kind of got to the point where my wife and I got divorced, and I got to the point where I realized I needed to get back to what I knew. And by that, I mean, all I'd ever known in my career is law enforcement. I at 15, 16 years old, I was a police explorer. I think at one point I sat down, because that was back when they would pull ICRs, for ride-alongs.
Oh yeah.
And I think at one point I sat down, I figured out, and I think I did over 2,000 hours in a squad car in Forest Lake. That's all I did. When my friends were all partying and doing stupid things, I was in a squad car. I liked it that much. And I'd be with Forest Lake. I'd be with the sheriff's office, or, Washington County. That's what I wanted, because I wanted to learn all the aspects of it. When I got done with high school, I went in the military, and I was an MP, and looking back, I should have went back and flown helicopters or something like that. But, I thought, well, if I'm going to be a good cop, I should be a cop in the military. So I did that. And then when I got out of that, I was in the National Guard, and then I went to school for law enforcement. So, since I was 15 years old, all I've known is copping. And so that security thing, while it was enjoyable, it still left me with that void of not being able to do what I wanted to do.
Well, it didn't feed you.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if that's kind of where you feel led to be.
Yeah. And so I took a position. I had a good friend of mine who was working up in White Earth for the tribal police, and he was up there, and he just spoke very highly of it. And he said, "You should come work with me. Come work with me up here on the res." And I said, "I don't know, man. I've heard a lot of horror stories about working on reses." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "And most of it's true." And he goes, "But if you want experience," and he goes, "and if you want someone who's going to, if you want an agency that's going to let you do your job, and they're going to let you do what you need to do," he's like, "This is where you need to come work." And I thought, all right. So I went up there and did an interview, and went extremely well. The chief up there, the chief of police, was a super good guy, retired state trooper. And he basically on the spot offered me a job.
What year were you up there?
That would have been 2010.
Okay, 2010.
Right. Yep. 2010. And he, just said, "We have two openings." He said, "You can either work one of our patrol cars. He said, we have an opening in our traffic unit. And he said, if you want to, you can choose. He says, you're my number one choice. You can pick which one you want, whichever one you don't want, the other guy gets. And I said, I'd like to be in that traffic unit. So,
gosh, golly, that sounds like fun.
It was a ton of fun. Yeah. And I don't know the exact, I don't know the exact statistic, but I believe, White Earth is the largest or the second largest landmass wise reservation in the state of Minnesota. I want to say, and again, don't quote me on it, but I want to say it's something like 16 or 1,800 square miles. It's like 3 counties. It's all of Mahnomen, the north half of Becker County, and the south half of Clearwater County is all reservation.
All of Mahnomen is reservation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few pockets here and there, but most of it's tribal.
I'll tell you, when I first started working down towards the metro, as you know, I worked a reservation as well.
Yep.
It was
well,
partial.
Cass is
partial.
that's Leech Lake, right?
Yeah, Leech Lake Band,
Yeah.
Ojibwe. Yeah, and people would ask, and I'm sure you got the same question. Well, what's it like working on a reservation? And it would be like, you have no idea.
Nope.
I mean, what I would always say is, people, I call them cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
People in the cities have no clue what occurs up there.
Nope.
Because it's not on the news. Like we would have shots fired call, drive-by shootings. I mean, there would be issues up there that were serious calls. It wouldn't even blurb the news down here. So when I came down here and people like, oh yeah, you worked in northern Minnesota. What did you do? Wink, wink. And insinuating we do nothing. I'm like, have you ever been on a shooting call before?
Yeah.
Have you ever been on a drive-by before? I mean, I had a call one. I mean, this is total, and I'm not hijacking this, but this is like, it's so strange. It's real. I had a call once of a car fire, legitimately, on Highway 200. If you know the area, Highway 200. I get a call of a car fire, and on the way to the car fire, I get diverted to a somebody laying in the road on Highway 200, just further down the road. So I'm like, okay, well, fire can handle the fire call. I'll go get the person.
Yep.
And as you know, it seems to be people laying in the road is not overly uncommon.
I had this, listen, you're telling the story, right?
Okay.
I'll tell you the one that I had literally as you're telling the story. What pops in my head is the guy that when I got called to a motorcycle versus deer, where the driver of the motorcycle is laying in the middle of the road south of up in Clearwater County.
Yeah. So I drive by the car on fire because I'm going to this person on the road, So I get there and no, I'm sorry. I got to back this up just a little bit. On the way to the person in the road, the call changes to the person's been struck by a car. So now I'm like, oh boy, okay, now this is really, a much bigger thing. End up getting there. The person in the road, as you can imagine, was the driver of the car that had caught on fire. And the people that hit him was the uncle of the guy going to pick him up from the car fire. They're all family members. So guy's driving down the road, his car, we presume this, right? His car breaks down. He pulls over, it catches fire. He walks for help because there happened to be a bar less than a mile away.
Shocker.
I know. Somewhere between the two places, he passes out. Again, shocker. He's laying in the road, but he's already called his uncle to come pick him up. So uncle's going to the car fire, hits his nephew who's passed out on the road, kills him. You can't make that up.
You can't make that up. No.
I mean, that's how bizarre. I mean, that's but I don't want to say that's normal, but it's not overly uncommon.
There's 4 stories that pop into my head as you tell that story that I can parallel with you that happened when I worked in White Earth. It's stuff like that. But when I was up there, I got told straight out, you will learn more here in the next 2 years than you've learned your entire career. And to this day, I don't disagree with that. I mean, there was so much that you talk about, shots fired calls, and up there, down here in the metro, where we end up working is we get shots fired calls, and you get there and it ends up being fireworks. And I jokingly tell people when I worked up on the reservation, natives don't call in fireworks complaints. Let me help you out. Like you don't get, oh, that's a shots fired call. Oh, the silly neighbors lighting off bottle rockets.
Yeah.
No. Nope. Those are shots.
Yeah, it was an interesting stint for me up north too. So I enjoyed it.
I did 2.5 years in White Earth, and honestly, if it wasn't because of how far it was from my family, so I lived at the time, we talked about you kind of as you go on in your career, the ability to be mobile and move becomes less and less. So at the time, I owned a home in just in the North Metro, and I thought, well, I'm not going to sell my house to go move up there because I don't know what it is. So I drive up there on my days on, and there was 3 or 4 of us that had a house that we rented, and we would stay in this house. And then eventually, we moved into a little cabin on a resort, and they basically we were on a resort, and they charge us $200 a month for rent in a 2-bedroom cabin because they liked having the squad cars.
I knew exactly where that was going.
Yep. And so my partner and I, we worked opposite each other. So on my days on, I had the whole cabin to myself, and my family would come up. And on his days on, I wasn't there, so his family would come up. So it worked out great. I did it for 2.5 years. And I don't for 1 second regret any of that. I learned so much, and I met so many amazing people up there, and just the things that you get to experience is just, I mean, it was fun. And just doing events, we did things. I jokingly tell people, because I was in the highway safety unit. We also did a lot of interaction with the community, before the term community engagement became a popular thing. We were doing that already. And we'd go to the powwows, and we'd go to the certain events and things like that. And we'd set up, and we would, I set up a driving course with a golf cart, and I had the goggles.
Oh, the drunk goggles?
Yep. And we'd set up cones.
They're like, and that's just another Saturday night.
Well, we got a grant. So once again, great story. We got a grant. We got a federal grant from the Bureau of Indian Affairs that said, we want you guys to do some alcohol education. So we went out, and it was a pretty significant grant. We bought a trailer. We bought traffic cones. We bought a golf cart, put all our graphics and stuff on it. And we'd go out to these events. We'd open the trailer, pull the golf cart out. We'd set up all these cones. And the catch was, if you came up, put the goggles on, if you drove the course, no matter how you did, you got a t-shirt. And we had really nice t-shirts. And so everybody wanted a t-shirt. So they kept asking, oh, I want a t-shirt. I want a t-shirt. And so you'd go, all right, you have to drive the course. So they drive the course. Well, then you'd have them do the different drunk goggles and things like that. And it was phenomenal. Well, then all of a sudden inevitably you'd get a guy that'd come walking up, and he'd be like, I'll give it a try. And we had one guy come up, and I gave him like the 1.5 goggles, which those are like, nobody can drive with those. He drives the whole course, doesn't nick a cone.
We call that experience.
And he goes, do I get another t-shirt if I do it again? And I said, sure. So I gave him the 2.0 goggles. He did it again. He hit 2 cones. And I went, here's your second t-shirt, sir. Thanks for playing.
Wow.
But I had a really cool banner made up. One of the things we did was advertising, and I've got a banner that was done, and they hired a professional photographer to come out, and there was a bunch of us from the department. They ended up being billboards around the whole reservation. Well, I ended up on a billboard, and I also have a banner where it's me standing in my uniform with my blue campaign hat on, and then standing in front of my patrol car, and it's got, the old DWI slogan, if you're going out tonight, so are we, or it was something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Well, they've changed over the years, but yeah, I get your point.
Yep. So I still, when I left, my sergeant came up to me, and he handed me, he goes, here, take this with you. And I was like, what? And he goes, it'll just get left in the closet around here. You might as well take it with you. So I still have it.
Do you really?
Yeah. My kids think it's a hoot. My kids are older now. They think it's the best thing ever.
Back when you looked young.
I started getting gray hair when I was 16. I don't know if I ever looked young, but
oh my gosh. Well, so we literally could spend probably 6 hours hashing about the good old days. But I want to like kind of talk about what you're doing now, and kind of how you got to where you're at. And so what are you doing now? I mean, you'd made reference earlier that you medicaled out. So what happened? I mean, are you okay?
In 20, I'm trying to think here. So 2018, 18, 19, 20, 2018, just a random middle of winter outside shoveling the driveway. it's the classic shovel in the driveway issue. But we own, I have a 4-wheeler with a blade on it, and I've got young kids that can shovel heavy snow. So it was that real light dusting of snow. Was outside shoveling and just flipping off a little bit of snow off the end of the driveway, and it was like somebody poked me in the middle of the chest with like a push pin. And it was just kind of just real quick, boom, ow, like almost like you just nicked your finger or something. And it happened a couple of times, and then finally I kind of just was like, and I've never been one of those people that says, I'm not going to the doctor. I've always been one of those, you know what I pay for medical insurance? I'm going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting my money's worth out of this, because if you know what my premium is, I'm going, right? And so I've never been one of those, I'm not going. I was always one of those, I'm going. And so I went in and they did a few tests and things like that. And subsequently they decided, well, we got to do an angiogram. That's where they run the camera up in your arm, or your main artery, and they look at your heart. So we're going to do an angiogram. I said, okay. So they knocked me out, did an angiogram. And I thought, I'm 44. I'm not that old. I mean, I guess
I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have been a cop. So they wake me up and maybe a stint. I don't know. That's a thing, a stint. So they wake me up and the doctor comes in. I said, well, did I need any stints? And he goes, nope. And I'm like, oh, well, that's good. He goes, because you need open heart surgery. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you need quadruple bypass surgery. He's like, you have arteries that are blocked up 80%, 70%, and 2 at 60%. Like, you need open heart surgery. And I was like, oh. And he's like, we're going to get it scheduled. He goes, we're not going to rush into the surgery right now, but you got some time to get some of your affairs in order and things like that. But yeah, you got to have this surgery. Okay.
Well, okay. And I'm just slow it down just a second. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I'm past 44.
Oh yeah.
Literally what was going on in your mind? I mean, did you sense it coming, or, I mean,
no, because when you're like, okay, so as cops or as just public safety professionals in general, right? So EMS and firefighters and things like that. In general, we learn through EMR and things like that, or EMR now, first responder. Now they call it EMR and things
right.
You learn all the signs and symptoms of like heart attacks and heart issues and things like that. I never had any of that. Nothing. I had zero signs. It was just that one little push pin poke that I thought I should get that checked out.
So for all you listeners, here's your PSA.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the classic signs of what you're taught in class.
No. And actually my cardiothoracic surgeon who did my surgery on his 70th birthday, mind you.
Wow.
Well recognized as one of the best cardiothoracic surgeon, did surgeries between Methodist Hospital in St. Louis Park and the Mayo. He was amazing. But he came in, he was very blunt with me, and I said, boy, it's a good thing we caught this. I'd have had a pretty bad heart attack. He goes, no, you'd have died. And I'm like, well, you mean like a heart attack? And he goes, no. He said, with how blocked up you were and how many your arteries were, because this is the same time he comes in and tells me, oh, by the way, we didn't replace 4 of your arteries. We replaced 5. There's only 6 of them that feed blood to your heart. So out of the 6 I have, they replaced 5 of mine. He said, you wouldn't have had a heart attack. Your heart just would have stopped.
Oh, you had a widowmaker.
That's exactly what it was. Yep. And that's what he called it. And he just said, you wouldn't have had a heart attack. He goes, you'd have tipped over.
Oof.
At 44.
Thank God.
44 with young kids.
Thank God that, you reacted to that. It's like, because as I'm sitting here talking to you right now, I'm like, oh, I've felt that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who hasn't, right? I mean, if you're over 35, you just get weird pains once in a while. Well,
and a lot of it is, and especially with, again, the foods we eat, you get that little indigestion, that, angina thing that goes on. You dismiss that as nothing. I mean, I always did. And again, maybe it was something, maybe it never was. I have no idea, but you don't think of it. I mean, this was just that minor thing. I just was like, I should go get that checked out.
Yeah.
But
the chicken I had for lunch today.
Yeah.
Gave me a little heartburn.
There you go.
But you know what I mean? It's like it's not that I'm being like dismissive about it. It's just, dude, we're older, right? Yes. I mean, you don't go, but I'm glad you did, obviously. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Absolutely. And I think like the big thing is, and of course, with every great story comes with the downside of that story, which is my dumb ass decided to go back to work, right? I literally went to my cardiologist and said, you got to let me go back to work. And she said, I really think you should be done. She's like, you just had 5 of the 6 arteries that feed blood to your heart replaced. She's like, I think you should be done. And I said, that's all I know.
Right.
That's all I know.
And you're 44.
I'm 44.
Yeah.
That's all I know. What else am I going to go do? What else am I going to go do? And so she said to me, all right, I'll let you go back to work. But if you have any signs or symptoms, yearly checkups, medical labs, things like that, you have anything that changes, she's like, we agree you're done, right? And I was like, okay. And I worked for another 4 years. I was 44. I worked till I was 48. And at 48, I literally went in for a checkup, and my yearly checkup, like I normally do, and I'd have a conversation. And she says, how have things been going? I said, good. She goes, anything going on you think I should know about? I said, I got this tingling thing going on in my arm every once in a while. I said, not like a numbness. I said, kind of like, when your arm falls asleep. And she goes, yeah. And I said, like that. And she goes, well, you're done. And I went, what? You're done. And I said, hold on a second now. And she goes, nope. She says, we had an agreement. If there was anything that, caused issues, you were going to be done doing this. And I was like, okay. And so then they ran a bunch of tests and things like that. And she put me on medical leave, and they ran a bunch of tests. And subsequently later they came in and she said, yeah, she goes, your body can't, it's not the job. It's not where you work. It's the job you do. And she said, your body just doesn't tolerate it anymore. She's like, you have to be done, or it's just going to be detrimental. And when you have kids, as most of us do, right? I mean, it's not hard to make the determination of like, if I got to choose between spending the rest of my time with my family or doing this job, like I love the job, but I don't love it that much. And so it was hard. I mean, there's still to this day. I mean, my paperwork went through in February of 2023, and I was officially done after everything got said and done, everything in May of 2023. And I mean, there's still not a day that goes by that I don't miss it. I mean, there's days you miss the job. There's days you miss the people. There's days that you miss the calls. It's just, I mean, there's not a day goes by you don't miss the job. And I think a lot of cops that are retired, or especially if they got medicaled out, most of us that are medical out sit back and they say the same thing. Like, I miss the guys. I miss the gals. I miss hanging out at coffee. Yeah. I miss going to break. I miss, it's stuff like that you.
So a mutual person that we know, I interviewed earlier on one of my earliest podcasts. I think maybe not podcast, but episodes. It might've been like my second or third one, Aaron.
Yeah.
And, that's the first thing he said, cause when you leave and it's not on your terms,
yep,
the door doesn't quite close the way you think it should.
Yeah. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's different. And I guess I didn't know what to expect when I walked away from it. It's probably a whole nother episode in itself, but when you walk away, I'm trying to gingerly put it the way that I want to put it so it doesn't come out in the wrong way, but you're easily forgotten. Because you're not there every day anymore. Those people that you went to break with every day, not as many of them are around anymore. And again, they're still at work. They're still working the night shift and the 12-hour shifts and things like that. But
let me rephrase it real quick, because I am still working, but I see it.
Yeah.
You're not part of the family anymore.
No, you are not.
And I think the sooner I'll say us older people figure that out, the healthier we'll be. I just literally had coffee with a retired officer from our department who retired 4 months ago. And him and I make a conscientious effort to stay in touch. And he literally told me, he's like, you're one of 3 people have reached out to me. And I work in a large department, as you know. You're one of 3 people that's reached out to me since I left.
Yep.
And he, just the way he said it, it's like, it's heartbreaking, but yet he's also kind of, it is what it is.
Yeah. And
he's like, I had to come to terms with that.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
100. I mean, mine's 4.
Yeah.
I have 4 people that if there's 2 or 3 that reach out to me on a regular basis. They literally go out of their way to make sure that let's get together. Let's do lunch. What day works for you? I'll make it work. And then there's 2 or 3 others that, if I see them or if they, or if something comes up, then they'll send me a message or whatever. But yeah, I mean, when you think about, and especially those of us that have worked multiple agencies, right? So we've reached out. I mean, in my career, I've been fortunate that I've been a drug recognition evaluator. I've been an instructor for that. I've been a standardized field sobriety instructor. So I've got to do a lot of great things as an instructor through my law enforcement career. So I've been fortunate that I've got to touch a lot of officers throughout the state of Minnesota. And I mean, I've had officers come up to me at, different events and say, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember you." I mean, you can't remember everybody.
Right. No, I get it.
But they come up and do that. And you're just like, just the people you physically touched. And then all of a sudden you retire and nobody's there. And and I don't want to say that's a terrible thing. I mean, I got other things going on and things like that, but it definitely is one of those things that I don't think those of us that are now, while you're in the career, I think you think when you're done, when you walk away, you think all them people that were there are still going to be there. And it's not that they're not. I'm sure if I picked up my phone and called any one of those people that I worked with over the last 13, 15 years, if I called any one of them, they'd answer their phone and they'd probably be there to help me. But they don't think about me as much as I think about them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing. It's not that they're still not there. It's not that you don't have access to them. It's not that they're still not your friends.
But it's proximity.
Yeah.
You're just not bumping elbows all the time. I mean, I haven't had that happen with work yet. And I say yet because I realize it's 3-4 years down the road, but I had that and I'm not bitter about it. I mean, it is what it is. But when we left our old church.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my wife was on staff at that church for 15 years. I mean, I was pretty well known in there. I can count on one finger how many people from that church I am still
and you don't think that, I mean, and that's just how organizations are. And
just
I
an
think
observation.
Yeah. I know. And
I'm not mad about it. I'm just okay. New chapter, I guess.
Yeah. And same thing, like, I'm watching, I'm watching the agency that I worked for, when I left, and I'm watching them just, because it's, just the way the things are in the metro. Yeah. But I'm watching the agency grow and expand, and more officers and more this. And I sit back and go, how much of that was I a part of, and how much could have I still been a part of? Because I mean, in theory, I'd still be on the job,
right? And
just seeing where the department's going, you're just like, wow, that's really great to see that. But you're just sitting back going, you shrug your shoulders and go, well, what's next? So walking away was, it was difficult, but it wasn't, I'm a firm believer, and everybody hates this slogan, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And we may not know what that reason is, but eventually it comes out.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can subscribe to that.
Yeah. And I think my highest of highs and my lowest of lows, everything happens for a reason. And I know that's that. And another famous quote that I like to use a lot that has become pretty popular lately is, this too shall pass. Whether things are good or they are bad, things are really, really good. Don't hang on to it too long, because this too shall pass. When things are bad and you're feeling kind of low, you once again, same thing, you can take a step back and say, this too shall pass. So I think that was, those are the two things I hang on to, that, that you're just kind of like, what, it is what it is. I don't, I miss it. I miss it every day. But there's a lot of the foundation of what the job and what the career's become that I don't miss. So we move past that. We move, health wise is good. I'm much healthier than I am now. I've lost 40 pounds from when I was copping, just lack of stress and things like that. And the nice thing is,
in that case, I better retire next week.
You probably should. It's not a bad idea.
I could lose a couple pounds,
right?
Still.
Start subscribing to the shot thing they got going on too. You could do that. But no, so with that, I mean, I'm doing, so I work right now. I work, for an amazing company called AM Canine, and we have explosive detection dogs, and we work for multiple different cargo companies. But where I'm specifically assigned is I work down at Delta Cargo outside Terminal 2, and we search mail and cargo. And I got an amazing 3-year-old Belgian Malinois mix, and her and I go down every morning, and it's a great relief to just have just something to do. And I think that's the big thing is, you know, and again, everybody hears the stories. When I retire, I'm not going to do anything. When I retire, I'm going to just go sit on a beach. Absolutely not. You lose your mind. I mean, you have to have something to do.
Purpose. You need purpose.
Yeah.
I believe so. Anyways.
Yeah. And I've got, and I own a business. We have a business called Enforcement Lighting, and a business I started back in 2009 is when I kind of started, and we're a emergency vehicle upfitter, out of Blaine.
So wait a second now. You're zipping through all this good stuff that I'm not going to let you pass on.
Well,
so
we can double.
I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
So the explosive, what is the technical term?
So she's an EDD, so explosive detection dog.
Okay. First of all, what kind of dog is she?
She is a Belgian Malinois, and I believe she's either a Dutch Shepherd or German Shepherd mix. So she's a mixed dog.
And what is her name?
Her name is Kira.
Kira. So did you get to name Kira?
No,
she came that way.
She came to me.
So, and we were talking about this at lunch earlier, and this is just, a reference for people who are like, oh, a dog. She's a tool. She's. And I don't mean tool in like the mental, like.
She's a piece of equipment.
And that's how, I mean, I obviously you treat her differently, as I don't want to say a pet, but as your own, but ultimately from the business side of point, she's a tool that's been issued to you.
Yeah. Yes and no though. I mean, so, my company is very good with, they don't mind, they want us to have interaction with the dogs. So she's not she's a crate dog. She travels in a crate. She sleeps in a crate. We have a crate at the house at night. She goes into the crate. But it's not done that's her safe place. So that's what's important to her. For her, it's not it's never used as a punishment. It's used as, this is my safe place. So that's all she's known since she's been a puppy is the crate stuff. But she still interacts with our family. Her and my wife have just this unbelievable bond with each other. Her and my stepson are also just, the other day I come home and my vicious Belgian Malinois is laying across my stepson's lap with a blanket over her. It's like, she's a dog, right? So she does have a very good relationship or a bond with our family. But at the end of the day, she's a working dog, and I have to remind my family at the end of the day, well, hopefully all goes well. And when she retires, we'll obviously retain her. Right now, if the company called up tomorrow and said, drop your dog off, she's a company dog. She's not my dog.
And that's the point I was trying to make to the listeners is that she's a tool.
She's a tool.
She has issued equipment to you that hopefully if they follow the law enforcement practice, when she retires, you'll also get her for $1.
Yep. It's between the ages of 8 and 10 is where our company usually retires our dogs.
Okay.
And then I'll have the option of getting reissued another dog. And that's typically, pretty standard. There are some exceptions here or there, depending upon what you're doing or if there's a health issue with the dog or something like that. But yeah, at this given time, she's a piece of equipment that's owned by AM Canine. She is not owned by me. She is my tool. And again, our department our company is very, very good with, with our handlers and things like that. They go to great lengths at fitting the dog with the handler. When you go to the training academy out in North Carolina, you actually sit down with the director and he says, tell me what you know about dogs. What kind of dogs you've been around? What kind of dogs have you had before? And they really kind of go out of their way to pair you with the right animal. So you're not, we've got Labs and Springers and Belgians and Shepherds and, just Dutch Shepherds and just every kind of variation of pointy dog and floppy-eared dogs that are out there, and depending upon what job you're going to do. But the company does an amazing job at just saying, okay, here's what we think is the best fit for you. And so the class I was in, we had one guy came out with a lab. Mm-hmm. That lab does just as good a job as mine does, but that's what fit for him because he had labs his whole life.
So does the company only do explosives, like explosive detection?
For the division I work within, they do, but we do have dogs all over the world. There's different divisions of what we do. So mainly it's mail cargo, things like that. But we also do a lot of stuff, different areas of the country, and depending upon what the dogs are doing or what the needs are. So
I guess what I'm trying to get at here is for anybody who might be listening is this a good retirement gig for cops?
I think it depends on how much time you want to invest in it.
Right? There we go.
Because any canine guy, right? So any previous canine handler will tell you, right? Whether I'm on duty or off duty, I still got that dog, right? So it all depends on what you want to invest into it, right? Our company doesn't require you work X amount of hours or things like that. We have monthly odor training we have to do, and we got certifications that you have to do, and everything like recertifications every year and things like that. So there's definitely some obligation to it. But on the same note, even if you're only working, 2 or 3 days a week, you're still obligated to take care of that dog
Right.
7 days a week. And so if you're a canine guy, if you're a dog lover who likes the dog and is willing to invest in the dog and things like that, and know that that's going to be your partner for the next 5, 7, 8 years, yeah, it's a good gig because we've got a lot of opportunities, and you're not required to do a ton. I mean, we're not 8-hour days. I mean, I think the longest shift we have right now, we have 8-hour days at one of our accounts, but they're not searching cargo 8 hours straight.
I was going to say, is a nose good for that
No.
long? The dog gets tired, I would imagine.
Yeah, and we've got certain training restrictions and within training and how long the dog can search. So for every hour of search time, it's 2 hours of rest time. That's just that's required by TSA. So we have no flex. We have no ability to adjust that. So if your search time, if you got an hour that took you to search all these packages or all these cargo or things like that, the dog has to have at least 2 hours of downtime to recoup, and that's just TSA, and which is great. It's good that those provisions are in there. We don't have any accounts like that in Minneapolis, so we don't. I mean, like I said, the account we have now, I think, we have certain days that you're busy, you'll search, quite a bit, and there's other days where there's a lot of downtime and things like that. But we do a lot of training in between. So we have, odors that are, what they call pseudo odors or odor print. They're not the real, but we'll take them out, we'll set them out places, and we'll work the dogs and do training with the dogs just to keep the dogs going. But again, if you want to be active as you're retired, it's a great opportunity. If you want to be retired, and it's, you're not driving cars for enterprise rental car, you're actually going to have to do something, you have to take care of that dog, outside of work and things like that. Now, the company compensates us for that. So it isn't like you're doing it on your own dime. You're compensated, a daily stipend just to have that dog. So it's not like you're not being compensated for it, but there's an obligation there to make sure you're taking care of it.
Right. Yeah. You have to meet your standards and go to your required training and so forth. So, well, it's something to think about for people who maybe have a law enforcement background and they're either retiring or they're no longer in the business anymore. And especially if you've got a canine background. So that obviously
it helps. Well. I mean, my canine background, like we talked about a little bit, right? My canine background is minimal, right? I try not to I really, really try to not overplay that too much because, I've worked with a lot of great canine handlers in my career. And I mean, just that are just phenomenal handlers. And I've got to be around those and help out with training and things like that. So I don't ever try to put myself in a category where I say, well, I'm a canine handler, because I got guys to look at and I go, I could never do what they do. I got handler experience is what I have. But there's canine handlers that I've watched go through, swamps, up to their waist in muck and mud and swamp and cattails, and to track down the bad guy and things like that. I've watched dogs, do things that you just wouldn't believe that dog could do. And those are canine handlers that know how to handle those dogs. They definitely know what they're doing. But yeah, I've experienced with a canine.
I can see you're really like, no, I don't want to overplay my hand here.
I definitely do not. Don't get me wrong. I'm yes, definitely the experience I did have. I think mainly even just working with a lot of the friends of mine that were handlers and saying, yeah, I'll take a bite from your dog, or I'll go hide in this building, or, I'll do muzzle training with, let your dog bop at me with the muzzle and stuff. I mean, I think having that definitely made me better to handle a dog and expectations and, things like that. But I definitely think there's a lot of people that have much more experience in handling dogs than I do. But again, that's the nice thing about our company too, is the company we prefer to hire people that got military, law enforcement or experience and some handler experience, but we also have hired people with zero experience. And then, and I mean, it's a longer training session that we have, but our company doesn't make it a mandatory thing that you have to have experience with dogs.
So I want to talk about another aspect, but we're running out of time for this particular episode. But I want to talk about another dog that you have. So are you willing to come back for another episode?
Absolutely.
All right.
You bet.
Well, thank you, and we'll talk again shortly. And everybody, just make sure you tune in to the next episode because we're going to find out what Brant's up to these days. So everybody, enjoy.
Thanks for tuning in to Under Investigation. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to dive deeper or stay updated on everything we're working on, check out our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/weareunderinvestigation. We'd also love to hear from you. Got questions, feedback, or a story to share? You can text or call us at 763-634-1210. Your input helps shape the show, so don't be shy. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and keep investigating.